Welcome to Fresno CityVision. I'm Heather Hanks. If some type of disaster were to strike tomorrow, would you be ready? Could you provide for yourself and your family for 3 days with no power, no running water, and every store and restaurant closed? We're all familiar with catastrophic events that have happened in other places like floods, earthquakes, and wildfires, so we shouldn't assume that a similar type of disaster will not happen here. Joining me this morning to talk about this subject is Gary Eberhard, the City of Fresno's Emergency Preparedness Officer. Thanks for being here, Gary.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
So first, tell me, is it even possible that we have this type of disaster in our area?
Well, Fresno, like any place in the state of California, has the potential for disasters. Sometimes it's the environment, but we've had earthquakes here in the past. We have wildfires. We have just about every disaster you can think of. So it's important that we be prepared for any of those disasters that might occur here.
The police and fire departments are obviously ready to respond, so why should the public be ready?
Well, I think the public has to understand that knowledge is power. I've always said that. If we're informed and we know what's coming or what might be coming, we will better survive an incident like that. So I think it's very critical that the public take an interest and be responsible for their own safety at the same time.
How long should they prepare to take care of themselves?
Well, you know, it's kind of hard to say depending on the magnitude of the incident. If it was a long-term incident, it could go on for weeks or even months. But the thing we like to say and what we like to tell people in the emergency management field is we like to see them be able to take care of themselves for about 72 hours. That's kind of the window for when things would start to settle down a little bit. Because we have to remember, if you have a big emergency, a lot of times the police and fire cannot get to people. Could be roadways could be destroyed, it could be problems getting in, natural barriers could be created. So it's important that we at least look for a 72-hour window that a family could be self-sufficient, and not just families, but individuals.
So now, should I wait until I hear the warning signs, or, you know, I've got to get my family ready now? You know, how do you respond as a family?
I think that it's important for us to understand that, again, preparation is so important. And there's some things you can do, especially from a family side. Families need to prepare. They need to talk to their children about disasters. Once a child's about 4 years old, they pretty much understand that, you know, things can happen. And it's important that a family get together, they sit down together, and they talk about plans, especially in their home. How do we get out? Say we have a fire in our home. How would we get out? How would we get out from a second-story window? Once we're out, where do we meet? So it's important that we kind of get that concept of, number one, we have to take care of our own families and ourselves until somebody gets to us. So it's just critical that we have people preparing for disasters.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the city's response. In a disaster, who's in charge? Well,
again, you know, I always have to say it depends on the magnitude. It can be from a major incident to a small incident. Here in the city of Fresno, Mayor Swearingen would obviously be in charge of the city. As the mayor, she is the person that's going to be responsible to make sure the citizens are taken care of. Then the city manager is next down. And then, of course, depending on the magnitude of the incident, the city manager would be in the Emergency Operations Center. Mm-hmm. And then if it was a police matter that we were responding to, like a barricaded subject or a shooting, then the police would be in charge of that incident.
Got it.
If it's a major fire or a gas leak or a rescue, then the fire department is in charge. So here in California, we use what we call the incident command system. So it kind of is a fluid system that depends on the incident where we go with it.
I see. Now tell me, the teams are ready to serve. What do they do? How do you prepare those police officers? How do you prepare the fire department? And, you know, what are the steps we're taking behind the scenes as a city to ensure public safety?
You know, it's an ongoing process. We have an excellent emergency operations plan that was made and updated every 2 years that includes the whole city. And when you deal with a large city, 5th largest in California, it's a very big plan, but it's a workable plan. We train with our police department for response. Our fire department trains weekly for various responses, various rescues. We have a rescue team here in Fresno that deals with swift water rescue. Matter of fact, we've had a couple of those in the last week, where we've had cases where people fell into canals, and so we have that swift water rescue. We have hazardous material teams, and so we continue to exercise. This year, at the end of this year, we'll be doing an exercise on a military air crash. So that will simulate a accident of that magnitude, and that will kind of bring everybody together to practice how do we take care of this. So not only do the citizens need to prepare, but we on the emergency management side need to prepare constantly.
How does the public get information during a crisis? it's good to know we're prepared, but how do we actually know what's happening?
Well, you know, we work very hard here in Fresno to ensure we have a notification system. We rely on our emergency alert system. That's kind of the little ticker that would come across the bottom of your television screen. Also, most people that listen to the radio and that always have this irritating thing that breaks into their song. That's the weekly test of the emergency operating system. Well, that's how we get that out to a lot of people. But we also rely heavily on our local media. We have an excellent relationship with all of our media stations here, and so we would be feeding them information to get out to the public. Some of our special access and functional needs people are even notified by pager and some other ways, by cell phones. There's various systems that we invoke to push out information.
Wow. What other information do people need to know so that they can be prepared and stay in touch and be able to receive those messages?
Well, you know, I think number one, depending on who they are, if they're with the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Center, they have ability to give information. Our blind and limited vision, we work very closely with that population so we can effectively evacuate them if we can. The other thing that the normal or the people just that are looking for normal information on incidents, the media and stuff like that, and they can always go to our Fresno webpage, has an excellent amount of information.
Well, what will you find on that site? Access to other agencies with preparedness information and...
Yes, there are, and there's a couple, and I'm sure that number one, we want to push our Fresno web page because that's a very important way to get our information out. But there's a couple sites on there that I would encourage the public to go to. The first one is www.ready.gov. That takes them right to the Federal Emergency Management page, and they have a wealth of information on preparedness. What needs to go into a kit? How do you get information? What should you have?
Tell us some of the things that we would be putting in our kits.
Well, I think, you know, again, for the 72-hour window that we're trying to do, I think you need to remember that you're going to need to have all your medicines, or at least a prescription for your medicines in there, extra batteries, canned food, non-perishable food, water to last for 3 days, and about every 6 months you need to rotate that water out of there, clothes, various changes of clothes. And one thing that I found out from dealing with people in the Northridge earthquake when I was down in Southern California, something a lot of people don't think about is it's important to put shoes by your bed. Wow. And the reason for that is that we have a lot of glass breakage and people are having problems getting out of their houses because they didn't have shoes.
Oh, wow.
So kind of a thing that you would miss, but something I learned, something small, that again is a preparedness thing.
The basics, have the basics ready and available.
Absolutely.
And you were talking about ready.gov. And we obviously have a pretty good working relationship with the state and federal government in the chain of response for an emergency?
Yeah, we do. We work very closely with the Federal Emergency Management. And we also work very, very closely with our state of California, and that's called CalEMA, C-A-L-E-M-A, and that's the California Emergency Management Agency. And we have just a great relationship with them. We have local people that are here in Fresno. If we have a disaster, we all come together and kind of attack the thing en masse. And we've been very successful. We've had our share of incidents here, and we've always been able to protect and serve the people of Fresno.
We have excellent teams working at it, that's why. Good to know that there's lots of training exercises and preparedness happening behind the scenes, but also very important to share with the public that they need to get themselves ready. And as you said, 72 hours, important to consider. Basic amenities, food, water, and shoes to cover your feet.
Yeah. Isn't that a funny thing? Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, a message we really want to send out to the people of Fresno is we are here for you. The emergency services, the mayor is very supportive of our emergency management preparedness. She is so behind this, and which makes it much easier for all of us. But we want the citizens to know we are prepared, we're ready to serve them, but there's an element of personal responsibility. And that's the 72 hours, that's the kit. And also go to these websites and look at these various things so you can download things. There's a really great one right now on the CalEMA site that talks about the 10 things you need to prepare. And so I would encourage the people to go to that CalEMA site and look at that brochure that talks about what are the 10 things I need to do to prepare for my own personal safety.
Thank you for that information, Gary. It's important to talk about this subject, and I appreciate you being here today. Well, that's it for this edition of City Vision. I'm Heather Hanks. My guest has been Gary Eberhard, the City of Fresno Preparedness Officer. You can get more information on how to prepare yourself and your family by visiting the City of Fresno website, www.fresno.gov/mayor. Click on the link for emergency preparedness, and you can find all of the information there. Thanks for watching.